Hello! Welcome everyone to another episode of Minecrab. We've updated the classic 0.0.23a_01. However, this is not the edition we will spend this episode in. Instead, we are going to look at an official Mojang version made in JavaScript. This means that the version can be run entirely in your browser. So, when did Mojang make a JavaScript edition? The version was released on classic.minecraft.net on May 7th, 2019, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Minecraft. Amazingly, as I'm recording this, the website is still running, so you can play Minecraft in your browser right now at that URL. In case this website gets pulled down, OmniArchive has an archived version you can visit as well. This is a funny reversal to how Minecraft ran originally. Minecraft Classic versions ran as Java web applets, in browsers, when they were originally released. Modern browsers no longer support Java web applets due to security vulnerabilities. For this version, they attempted to remake classic 0.0.23a_01. They likely chose this version since it was the last version before the survival tests began. The group that made this version did a fantastic job, considering they had to remake the game in an entirely different programming language. However, it has a lot of differences and bugs that we can still look at. Our first goal is to convert our world from the original Java version into this JavaScript remake. So let's take a look at how the world is saved in the remake. If we press F12 to bring up the developer menu, I'm using Firefox here, but it is also possible in Chrome. We can go to storage, then into local storage, and we see two items, settings and saved game. Settings just saves information like key bindings and whether music is enabled. Saved game is a JSON that saves the data for our world. The JSON has 4 fields. First we have this unused version field, which is always set to 1. I guess this was added in case they had to update the world format, then they could use this number to tell what version the world was from. Next is the world size, which is 128 for small, 256 for medium, and 512 for huge worlds. Annoyingly, the world is actually 1 block smaller than the size variable. So if the world size is 256, the world is actually 255 by 255. This JSON format makes it very easy to change the size of the world. So I can go in here, set that to 10, and now I'm going to refresh, leave the page, and if we go back into the game, the world size is updated, and now the world is only 9 by 9 in size. Again, you have to take the world size minus 1, and the world's actually 9 by 9. But yeah, now we don't have much room to play in the world anymore. If we take this to the extreme, I can set the world size to 2. I'll enter that here, refresh, leave the page, and when I get back to the world is 1 by 1, which means we only have a single column that we can play on. I can barely move around in here. I can mine down into the water, and eventually we get surrounded by bedrock. Bedrock's on all sides. And I can keep going down underneath the water. There's no escape. I can get to the very bottom of the world. It's just a single column all the way down. The maximum world size allowed is 1024, creating a 1023 by 1023 world. If we set the world size to over 1024, or less than 2, the world will not load. And finally, in the saved game JSON, we have the world seed and changed blocks. World seed is used to generate the world just like a normal Minecraft seed, but this version only saves the blocks that you have changed in the world. All the other blocks can be inferred by what generated from the world seed. This greatly reduces the required storage on the browser. To demonstrate changed blocks, I have a world here with no changed blocks right now. I'm going to go in and place 1 block of stone. Give it a second to update, and there, it added that block to the changed block list. Now in this block, it has a string that starts with P, that's the position, it's the X, Y, Z of the block. And then it's got an A field, which isn't really important right now, but then a BT field, and that's the ID of the block. So it's 2 for stone. It uses different IDs than in the original game. I'm going to change that to 21, refresh, and come back. And now if we go find that block, we've changed the ID, So the stone has become a block of gold. In order to convert any classic world into the remake, we should set all our blocks in the original world as change blocks for the remake, since the classic world is not based off the same terrain generation. Now you could remove some blocks from the changed blocks list, if they happen to line up with a seed. However, that would not work for all worlds. I have coded a tool that can convert any pre-classic or classic world to this JavaScript remake format. This tool is available in the description with instructions if you want to try it out. After running my tool on our world, I have a JSON string. So let's paste it into here. And it crashed. Okay, it turns out pasting an 112 megabyte string into local storage will crash an entire web browser. And yes, the JSON string really is 112 megabytes, since every block in my world takes many characters of information. The changed blocks format is intended for worlds where only a small percentage of blocks are changed. It doesn't handle having every block set to changed very well. The converter was stuck on this problem for a while, until 2023. Thanks to Slim Jim, we have a solution to this crash. For the Firefox browser, you can go to About Config and increase the size of dom.storage.default quota to allow it to handle this large string. I'm setting mine to 200,000. Ta-da! After that fix, we now have our world in the JavaScript remake. This is a lot of fun to play our world in a web browser. Now that we have our world converted, let's look at all the inaccuracies in this remake compared to the original version. When we first log in, we are starting with a different ordering of blocks on our hotbar. In the original, your hotbar always starts in the same order as the blocks in the Select Block menu. The fonts of the two editions are slightly different. Look at the taller lowercase t in the remake compared to the original, for example. In the remake, grass will just spontaneously generate on dirt blocks that have access to the sky. In the original, grass has to spread from existing grass. This allows us to obtain grass in our world for the first time. We had no existing grass because our world was created before grass existed. You can see water through flashing blocks in the remake, which was not possible in the original. Player movement physics are different. You can walk faster in the remake compared to the original. Also, the player can fall much faster. I can demonstrate fall speed using another difference. When I press R to respawn, my player movement speed is not reset in the remake. So if I jump and press R, I keep moving. Now I look backwards, jump forward and press R, you see I keep moving backwards. If I put my spawn point way up in the sky, and then press R to respawn, and then keep pressing R before I hit the ground, my falling speed gets faster and faster. In the remake, we have access to the chat in single player, unlike the original where chat is only accessible in multiplayer. In the remake, you cannot place saplings, mushrooms, or flowers inside the player, while you could in the original. In the remake, if you place a block at the build limit, and then refresh, so I'm going to refresh and then get back up there, you will find that the top texture has disappeared. So the top texture of this cloth is not rendering, and look at this, I can walk on air. Here's what the top of the Menger sponge looks like. It's all at the build limit, so the textures have disappeared. If you have a straight column down into the world, you can use this to X-ray. In the remake, if you place a block over a water block, the water's side faces won't render. In the remake, if you break a block next to water, the water will move towards that spot, even if it's in the range that should be dry due to a sponge. You can even use it to get water touching a sponge anywhere in the world. I can also use it in the downwards direction. You just need to build up to the water, break it, and then you get water touching a sponge anywhere in the world. If you hold space and water in the remake, eventually you will stop bobbing up and down entirely. You will just hover at the same Y value at the top of the water. In the remake, the web browser zoom will actually affect the GUI's size. So you can see the select block menu and my hotbar get larger as I'm zooming in, and I can do it the reverse direction and zoom out, and that makes it very small. And then I can also show this also applies to the escape menu. So if I zoom in, this escape menu gets larger, and I can zoom out to make it smaller. Gravel and sand do not visually cast any shadow when they are first placed. Once they fall, their shadow appears. In the remake, plants and fungi don't have their light blocked when water is on top of them, while they will in the original. The Steve mob's model is broken in the remake. Its head and torso are sunken down. The Steve mob also has the newer texture that was added after Classic 0.23. The newer texture is missing what I thought was a smile, but apparently is actually a beard. Steve mobs can go past the world border in the remake, while they couldn't in the original. So you can see them all swimming down there now. Steve mobs despawn after a minute in the remake, while they were permanent in the original. The cap of 256 Steves in a world, which existed in Classic 0.0.23a_1, is removed in the remake. So you can have tons of Steves if you spam G fast enough. I've used an auto key presser here to create many before they begin to despawn. The remake has no sound effects from walking. The glass and gold blocks use the stone breaking sound effect, instead of the separate metal sound effect. Breaking leaves makes a new sound that didn't exist in the original. In the remake, I'm going to dig down 2 blocks, press Enter to set my spawn point there, and then place 2 blocks there. Now if I press R, I spawn inside those blocks, and that allows me to X-ray into my world. In the original, I would have spawned on top of those blocks. When changing controls, we have angle brackets around some key names in the remake that don't exist in the original. Also, the return key is changed to Enter, and the original would spell out punctuation keys that are instead displayed in the remake. The clouds don't move in the remake. You can see I've outlined this square cloud, and it will just remain in the same spot. And I saved the best difference for last. This is a bug that exists only in the remake, and was discovered by my friend Magikarp129 just last year. Magikarp is a really smart guy who has made so many discontinued feature discoveries across many versions. If you look at the bottom of the world and press middle click and right click at the same time, you can actually pick block bedrock. When you pick block bedrock, you enter a bugged state. Your selected slot and all slots right of it are now empty, and now you have no selected slot. And if you try scrolling, you'll actually crash the game. But if you right-click to toggle build mode, you now have the ability to place bedrock anywhere in the world. This is such an awesome bug, because you can obtain the bedrock block anywhere without using any commands or cheats. Just be careful with this power, because once you place bedrock, there is no way to remove it in this version. And there are additional, subtler differences that I did not catch. All of this is expected when you rewrite the game from scratch in a different language. Sort of like the many differences that exist today between Java Edition and Bedrock Edition, which is written in C++. This version is incredibly fun, and I am very glad we were able to play in it on a copy of Minecrab. However, I am not planning to convert this JavaScript world back into Java Edition. My plan for Minecrab is to only use vanilla Java versions, and since this is a separate edition of the game, I am not updating this copy of the world into later versions. However, if you would like to convert any JavaScript world into Java, Slim Jim also created a tool for that. If you think about how the JavaScript world is saved, this is the more difficult direction to convert a world. When the changed blocks list does not have all the blocks in the world, you have to run the world generation code to create the list of blocks. The convenient way to do this is to run the existing JavaScript generation code and use the blocks it generates. However, Slim Jim took the challenging route, recreating all of the generation code in Rust. That is an extremely impressive tool that is also linked in the description if you would like to use it. Finally, I wanted to mention that the JavaScript version has been re-uploaded several times since its original release. There were 4 versions in 2019. One of those versions broke the Steve model. Originally, the Steves just looked normal. And just recently, there were 3 more re-uploads last year in 2025. The 2025 versions removed access to the multiplayer server button, which had long since become broken. However, all the specific changes between these versions aren't known. The code is obfuscated, making understanding it quite difficult. You can play all the different uploads on the OmniArchive website, linked in the description. If you know about more of the differences between these JavaScript re-uploads, please share in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking the video and subscribing. Goodbye!